Every case kicked off with pure sunshine, a grin, and a red Ferrari screaming through Hawaii. But Magnum P.I. was never just about paradise. It was about danger lurking right behind the beauty. Loyalty tested under pressure. The real story of this cast goes way deeper than sunny beaches and cheap action. Some became total legends, some quit the spotlight, and others are sadly gone. Let's track down the cast in 2026. Their real lives show what happened after paradise faded. John Hillerman played Jonathan Quayle Higgins, the uptight, sophisticated caretaker of Robin's Nest at 47 years old, giving Magnum P.I. its absolute best comedic spark. Higgins ruled with strict discipline, constantly losing his mind over Magnum's relaxed island vibe. That stiff British posture and military precision made every blowout with Magnum incredibly funny. He was way more than just the guy guarding the gate. Higgins brought structure, dry wit, and real heart, making Robin's Nest feel like a home. Off the screen, John Hillerman had a killer career, starring in classics like Blazing Saddles and Chinatown. He even took home an Emmy for playing Higgins. John Hillerman died on November 9, 2017, at 84 years old. Lost an actor whose sheer elegance, perfect timing, and sharp wit made him truly irreplaceable. Higgins stays beloved to this day because Hillerman made being stiff hilarious and dignity feel real. That flawless spark with Magnum gave the entire show its beating heart. Larry Manetti played Orville Wright, Magnum's street smart club owning best friend at 33. He brought a ton of hustle, deep loyalty, and slick charm to the show. Orville always stood out because he either knew a guy, owed a guy, or had some wild scheme that was barely legal. His fast-talking confidence made him one of Magnum's most hilarious sidekicks. He brought that genuine, ride-or-die friendship energy. Working with Magnum and Theodore Calvin, Orville added a local spark, making them feel like a real family bonded by trouble and loyalty. Off the set, Larry Manetti kept acting in television and even wrote a book called Aloha Magnum, stayed super close with the fanbase. Now 79, Larry Manetti still reps his Magnum legacy with massive pride. He still hangs out at conventions and even popped up in the modern reboot of the show. Orville stays memorable because Manetti kept him charming but delightfully rough around the edges. He felt exactly like that buddy who drags you into a mess, then miraculously gets you out. Roger E. Mosley played Theodore Calvin, Magnum's fiercely loyal chopper pilot at 41, bringing solid muscle, quick laughs, and heavy confidence to the screen. Theodore Calvin stood out by being completely reliable without ever being boring, for flying directly into gunfire or calling out Magnum's stupid plans. His steady presence anchored all the wild action. He anchored the show with a truly unforgettable brotherly bond. Alongside Magnum and Orville, Theodore brought a deep sense of brotherhood that made their wild capers feel incredibly personal. Off the island, Roger E. Mosley had a massive career. He crushed roles in Lead Belly, Roots the Next Generations, and countless crime dramas. Sadly, Roger E. Mosley passed away in 2022 at 83. His passing deeply hurt fans, who always loved him as the show's most reliable rock. Theodore Calvin stays iconic because Mosley gave him real pride, loyalty, and soul. He was never just the guy flying the chopper. He was the heartbeat of the crew. Kwan Hai Lim played Lieutenant Yoshi Tanaka, Honolulu Police Lieutenant, at 58 years old, giving the show a sharp, grounded law enforcement presence. Tanaka stood out because he was patient, sharp, and totally immune to Magnum's charm. His quiet power made him completely believable as a seasoned detective who never needed to raise his voice. He kept things real by bridging Magnum's rogue detective work with the actual police department. His scenes brought a serious, gritty edge to this sunny island show. Outside of Magnum, Kwan Hai Lim spent decades performing on stage, in films, and across various TV shows, becoming one of Hawaii's most recognizable faces. Kwan Hai Lim passed away in 2008 at 86. For fans, his death meant losing an actor who brought true local flavor and dignity to the show. Tanaka remains iconic because Kwan Hai Lim played him with quiet brilliance. He made the entire police force feel genuinely human, deeply respectful, and locally rooted. 32. Jeff McKay joined the show as Lieutenant McReynolds, a recurring military presence who brought real authority and a sharp service record into Magnum's world. Fun. Lieutenant McReynolds really stood out because he carried the heavy weight of the military past that shaped Magnum. He reminded everyone that behind those sunny Hawaiian beaches and simple cases lay older loyalties, heavy duties, and deep scars. Whenever the show moved past casual island mysteries, he helped give the story real depth. Guys like McReynolds gave Magnum's backstory real weight, tying the fun present to a much darker, serious history. Outside of Magnum, Jeff McKay became a regular face on television, especially working on Donald P. Belisario projects. He popped up in Jag, Tales of the Gold Monkey, and plenty of other action shows. Jeff McKay passed away in 2008 at just 59 years old. It was a massive loss for fans who loved his easygoing charm on classic TV. Lieutenant McReynolds is still a fan favorite because Jeff McKay made him feel like a natural part of Magnum's world. He brought history, friendship, and a gritty military vibe. 32. Kathleen Lloyd stepped in as Assistant District Attorney Carol Baldwin, bringing a sharp intelligence and serious professional tension to the show. Carol Baldwin stood out because she was sharp, cool, and totally immune to Magnum's charm. Her legal mind gave the series a much tougher edge whenever his street work collided with the law. Then, she kept the show balanced in a completely different way. Since Carol sat outside Magnum's relaxed inner circle, her scenes always felt more serious, intense, and sometimes deeply personal. Kathleen Lloyd already had a really strong acting career before she ever crossed paths with Magnum fans. She starred in movies like The Missouri Breaks, then kept working steadily across television dramas and memorable guest spots. Now 78, Kathleen Lloyd has mostly stayed out of the public spotlight for the last few years. Fans still remember her for a career built on sharp intelligence, restraint, and quietly powerful roles. Carol Baldwin works so well because Kathleen Lloyd kept her strong without ever overplaying it. She brought law, order, and calm control right into Magnum's sunny but highly dangerous paradise. 45. Lance Legal played Buck Green, a tough military officer tied to Magnum's past, bringing raw authority and old wounds to the show. Buck Green really stood out because you could never quite tell if you should trust him. He brought pure tension, proving that Magnum's military history still followed him everywhere in civilian life. It gave the series a much darker, gritty, emotional backdrop. Whenever Buck Green showed up, the story turned to duty, Vietnam memories, authority, and the heavy loyalty shared by survivors. Actor Lance Legal built a massive career playing these kinds of tough, intimidating, military-style figures. Audiences also recognized him from the A-Team, Battlestar Galactica, and other big action roles. Lance Legal passed away in 2012 at 77 years old. We lost an actor whose deep voice, sheer presence, and rugged authority made him instantly recognizable. Buck Green is unforgettable because Lance Legal brought real conflict to the role, making Magnum's past feel harsh and impossible to ignore under that bright Hawaii sun. Jean Bruce Scott played Maggie Poole, 24-year-old Navy officer, who brought real intelligence, confidence, and sharp professionalism to the show. Maggie Poole stood out because she commanded authority without ever having to force it. She was highly capable, cool, and direct, making her a powerhouse in scenes dealing with naval secrets and private detective work. She helped stretch the story way past Magnum's easy beach life. Through her, the show easily returned to naval connections, official secrets, and the military background that shaped Magnum's choices. Jean Bruce Scott was already familiar to action fans from Airwolf, where she played Caitlin Onassi. Later, she turned to producing, working closely with native voices at the Autry to support indigenous theater. Foreign. Now 70, Jean Bruce Scott has spent most of her later years behind the camera rather than chasing the spotlight. 4. Her work in theater leadership gave her life a really meaningful, creative direction. Maggie Poole remains a standout because Jean Bruce Scott played her with such confidence and clarity. She brought discipline, intelligence, and a fresh female authority to Magnum's universe. 32. Clyde Kusatu joined the cast as Lieutenant Gordon Katsu, a Honolulu cop tied to Magnum's cases. Bringing a calm authority and real local flavor, Lieutenant Gordon Katsu stood out because he made the police work feel completely realistic. His scenes really helped ground Magnum's rogue detective work in a highly believable police world. He brought another vital local perspective to the show. Set against Hawaii's gorgeous mysteries, figures like Gordon Katsu kept the show grounded, official, and deeply tied to real community life. Clyde Kusatu carved out an incredible legacy as one of TV's most recognizable Asian American character actors. You probably saw him in MASH, All in the Family, Star Trek, The Interpreter, or heard his voice roles. Now 78, Clyde Kusatu remains respected for decades of steady screen work, also serving in leadership at the Screen Actors Guild. Lieutenant Gordon Katsu worked because Clyde Kusatu brought real dignity to him. He helped transform Magnum's Hawaii into a truly living, breathing place, rather than just some beautiful, empty backdrop. 24. Alyssa Dulce joined as Rosine, a welcoming face in Magnum's world. She brought natural local warmth to Magnum PI. As Rosine, she helped fill the island with everyday folks, making the setting feel genuinely lived in. Minor characters carried serious weight on a show where the local atmosphere was everything. Her appearances added rich texture around the weekly mysteries. It reminded everyone that Magnum's cases touched real neighborhoods, jobs, and social circles far beyond the wealthy estates. Alyssa Dulce later became a prominent figure in Hawaii's public life, working closely with local theater, television, and community arts. Her journey shows just how crucial island talent was in shaping the true spirit of the series. 60, Alyssa Dulce kept a much lower international profile than the main stars. Yet her work still deeply resonates with fans who love the authentic local performers who grounded the show's world. Rosine remains a quiet but incredibly meaningful piece of the puzzle. Alyssa Dulce helped anchor Magnum PI in a physical reality, showing that even brief roles can build a believable community. Marta Dubois stepped into the role of Michelle Hugh, the ultimate love of Magnum's life, at 27 years old. She brought a dark sense of danger and heartbreak to Magnum PI, standing out because Michelle was never just another basic love interest. Her deep connection to Magnum went back into a past of war and loss. Their unresolved love made her guest spots feel far heavier than usual, showing a much softer, wounded side of Thomas Magnum. Michelle saw that behind the detective's easy smile lay a man still carrying heavy grief, deep loyalty, and ghosts he couldn't escape. Actor Marta Dubois also carved out a steady television career, starring in Tales of the Gold Monkey. She also worked on The Trial of the Incredible Hulk and the McBride movies. Marta Dubois sadly passed away in 2018 at 65. Fans grieved her loss, remembering the raw emotion she brought to that storyline. Michelle Hugh remains unforgettable because Dubois played her with such elegance and sorrow. Her presence made the detective's past feel beautiful, painful, and completely inescapable. Phyllis Davis played Cleo Mitchell. This glamorous guest star shook up the island cases at 40 years old, adding a dangerous layer of mystery to the show. As Cleo Mitchell, Phyllis Davis delivered classic television beauty, but with a much sharper, dangerous edge. She fit beautifully into the show's blend of charm, danger, and suspense, delivering a stylish performance that made this particular case stand out. In this universe, a new face usually meant romance, danger, or trouble, often all three. Phyllis Davis was already a familiar face to TV fans from her work on Vega as Beatrice Travis. She worked steadily across film and television throughout the 70s and 80s, always bringing elegance and absolute confidence to her scenes. Phyllis Davis passed away in 2013 at the age of 73. Her passing was a loss for classic television, where she'll always be remembered for her poise. Cleo remains a high point of the show's guest star legacy. Davis brought a polished old-school charisma to the screen. He kept things incredibly stylish. Meanwhile, Gillian Dobb joined the show as Agatha Chumley, played Higgins's refined, devoted friend at 51, injecting real warmth and class into Magnum's world. As Agatha, she managed to soften the stiff Higgins without stripping away his pride. Their scenes together revealed his tender side, creating beautiful moments of charm, deep loyalty, and sweet, old-fashioned affection. She expanded the emotional dynamics of Robin's Nest far beyond the detective's action-heavy cases. Through Agatha, the show proved that quiet friendship and longing could be just as gripping as gunfights and mysteries. Gillian Dobb was a veteran of theater and television, yet Agatha became her most celebrated role, with her natural warmth and elegance turning her into a massive fan favorite for those who loved the show's gentler moments. Gillian Dobb passed away in 2001 at age 71. She passed years after the show wrapped, but fans still remember the quiet class she brought to Higgins' world. Agatha Chumley felt real because Dobb played her with genuine warmth, never overacting. She brought a soft, human touch to the show, making Robin's Nest feel like a real home. Eugene Rowe stepped in as Luther H. Gillis, that loud, stubborn private eye from St. Louis. 52 years old, he brought pure comic friction and old-school detective grit to the screen. Luther H. Gillis stood out because he was everything Magnum was not: blunt, pushy, unfashionable, and totally stuck in his ways. Every single clash with Magnum was hilarious and packed with attitude. He brought a totally different rhythm to the screen. Forget Smooth Island vibes. Luther brought loudmouth confidence, big city attitude, and the grit of an older detective world, crashing into Magnum's laid-back Hawaii. Eugene Rowe carved out a massive career as a reliable character actor across movies, TV, and ads. Audiences recognized him from All in the Family, Soap, Webster, and dozens of roles where his gruff warmth stole the scene. Eugene Rowe died of a heart attack in 2004 at age 75. His passing was the loss of a truly familiar face from decades of primetime television. Luther H. Gillis sticks in our minds because Rowe made him annoying, hilarious, and somehow deeply lovable. He gave us a perfect comic rival who could drive Magnum crazy while still winning over the crowd. Joe Santos stepped up as Lieutenant Nolan Page at 49 years old. He brought some real-world authority and classic, gritty cop drama credibility to Magnum's sun-soaked island. Lieutenant Nolan Page stood out immediately because Santos knew exactly how to play cops who felt seasoned by the streets. He carried the heavy weight of old cases, tough choices, and a no-nonsense attitude that fit these crime stories perfectly. He helped hook the show into the wider world of classic American cop dramas. Guys like Page gave Magnum real pushback whenever his private eye cases crossed into official police business. Joe Santos was already a household name as Sergeant Dennis Becker on The Rockford Files. Easily one of the greatest detective shows of the 1970s. He also popped up in movies, dramas, and dozens of guest spots. Santos passed away in 2016 at 84, following a heart attack. Fans remember him as a reliable character actor who had a natural gift for playing tough authority figures. Lieutenant Nolan Page remains a standout part of the show's incredible guest star lineup. Santos brought gritty realism and old-school energy, making Magnum feel tied to a much bigger television crime legacy. Robert Pine stepped up as Lieutenant Thomas Magnum III. He took this role at 39 years old, linking the Magnum name to a deeper military background and adding a fresh layer to the family dynamic. Lieutenant Thomas Magnum III grabbed attention instantly just by sharing that famous name. On a show where duty, honor, and military history meant everything. Even a brief appearance carried massive weight. Fawn. His character helped prove that Magnum's journey was far bigger than just one lone detective working out of Hawaii. It dug into deep family history, military duty, and the complex roots of the hero we watched every single week. Meanwhile, Robert Pine built a massive television career. Most fans knew him as Sergeant Joseph Gatrier on Chips, but he also popped up in endless dramas, comedies, films, and modern shows working with younger generations. Now 85, Robert Pine is still a deeply respected veteran actor. Though he has slowed down since his busiest television years, his incredible run makes him a familiar face across several generations of American television. Lieutenant Thomas Magnum III remains a fascinating footnote in the show's history. Pine's brief stint ties the show to a much broader TV legacy, giving fans yet another recognizable face on the island. Robert Loya played Philippe Trousseau, a dangerous and intense guest character who, at 50 years old, brought real menace and cinematic weight straight to Magnum's world. Philippe Trousseau stood out because Robert Loya never felt ordinary. His gravelly voice, intense stare, and quiet force made him seem dangerous before he even spoke a word. He delivered the kind of heavyweight guest performance that instantly raised the stakes for everyone. In this world, a guy like Philippe Trousseau meant deep secrets, sudden violence, or raw revenge, crashing down in a single hour. Robert Loya built a massive career in cinema and television, starring in Scarface, Big, Jagged Edge, An Officer and a Gentleman, and dozens of gritty crime dramas. Robert Loya passed away in 2015 at age 85 due to complications from Alzheimer's disease. His passing took away one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. Philippe Trousseau still stands out because Loya brought absolute, undeniable credibility to the role. His presence brought a darker, gritty vibe to the show, proving just how much a heavy-hitting guest star could shake things up. Sharon Stone became Diane Duprat, a guest star caught up in Magnum's case-driven world. At only 22, she brought beauty, mystery, and effortless confidence to the screen. As Diane Duprat, Sharon stood out instantly because she already possessed that rare magnet-like presence that made everyone look. Long before she was a household name, she carried a mix of glamour, tension, and subtle danger, continuing the show's tradition of memorable guest talent. On this show, a new woman meant romance, deep suspicion, or total heartbreak, or just plain trouble, and Diane fit that vibe perfectly. Sharon Stone later skyrocketed to fame with hits like Basic Instinct, Total Recall, Casino, and several dramatic roles. She pulled in major award nominations, becoming one of the most famous faces of the 1990s. Today, at 68, she is busy painting, writing, and acting. She has been open about surviving a stroke and rebuilding her career. Playing Diane Duprat was just a small, early gig, but it clearly teased a massive screen presence that was destined to explode later on. Her jump from guest star to global icon makes this appearance super interesting. Then there was Dana Delaney as Cynthia Frell. At 24, she brought a sharp intelligence, elegance, and serious emotional depth to these island mysteries. Playing Cynthia, Delaney stood out because she had a remarkably calm, thoughtful quality on camera. Even at that young age, she balanced strength and vulnerability beautifully, making a simple guest role feel layered. Her presence gave the whole mystery a much deeper, more personal, dramatic feel. A show driven by easy charm, heavy action, and sleuthing, characters like Cynthia brought real emotional stakes to the mystery. Delaney later hit it big with China Beach, grabbing 2 Emmy Awards for her incredible performance there. She also starred in Desperate Housewives, Body of Proof, and big voice roles. Plenty of stage work, films, and TV shows. Delaney, now 70, is deeply respected for a career defined by intelligence and incredible range. Rather than being known for just one part, she is famous for decades of incredibly strong, diverse acting. Cynthia Frell remains a fascinating early chapter in Delaney's acting history. It showed a young actress already capable of bringing intense depth and poise to the camera. Then Frank Sinatra stepped in as Michael Doheny, a retired New York cop seeking justice. At 64, he brought legendary star power and pure old-school toughness to Magnum. Michael Doheny stood out because Sinatra played him with the heavy weight of a man carrying deep grief, anger, and unfinished business. His legendary status made this feel way bigger than just another routine guest spot. He gave the show a true event-like feel. Dropping Sinatra into Magnum's world instantly linked the series to classic Hollywood, timeless music, and the gritty, hard-boiled detective tradition. By then, Sinatra was already one of the absolute biggest stars of the 20th century. With a massive career that crossed music, film, and television, he took home an Academy Award and literally defined American culture. Sinatra passed away in 1998 at 82, after suffering a heart attack. His passing truly marked the end of an era for millions of fans who loved him as both a singer and a screen legend. Doheny is unforgettable because Sinatra brought a massive, living myth with him. His performance gave the series a touch of old Hollywood gravity that almost no other guest star could match. Then there's Tom Selleck as Thomas Magnum, the charming investigator at Robin's Nest. At 35, he gave the character that relaxed confidence, humor, and pure leading man appeal. Magnum stood out because he was cool without ever feeling untouchable. He had the signature red Ferrari, the killer smile, Hawaiian shirts, and endless charm. But he also carried heavy war memories, deep loyalty to his buddies, and a moral code that made him way more than some carefree island sleuth. He was the show's entire heartbeat. He chased danger, broke rules, and leaned on Orville Wright and Theodore Calvin, then turn and speak directly to us, sharing that famous private joke with just a quick look. Tom Selleck shot to the top of television's elite through The Gig, winning an Emmy and launching a massive, long career in Hollywood. Later, audiences loved him in 3 Men and a Baby, Friends, and Blue Bloods. Today, at 81, Tom Selleck remains one of the most respected faces of classic American television. After heading up Blue Bloods for years, he transitioned into a quieter life, while staying closely linked to values like loyalty, family, and timeless star power. Thomas Magnum remains iconic because Selleck made him feel totally effortless. He turned a simple private eye in paradise into an enduring symbol of charm, loyalty, and 1980s television cool. Thanks for hanging out. Drop a comment on which cast member shocked you the most, and hit subscribe for more classic television stories.